Right now, the XRP community is all talking about a rumor that Ripple is buying back 10 billion XRP. But as you can see, John Deaton already said, I don't believe Ripple is buying back 10 billion XRP until I hear it from Ripple. At the same time, a lot of people in the Bitcoin community have started to go on a little bit of a frenzy against XRP. One of those guys is Max Keiser, who got a lot of attention over the last day. And even though we, for the most part, already talked about his comments, there's more and more articles being written. Literally today, I think 3 new articles popped up, all talking about Max Keiser and what he said about XRP not winning their case. He says this was never about the law. XRP was marked for death, and Gary's job is to take it out. Now, obviously, after he said that, the XRP community and lawyers in general all came out to state that it's really strange that this guy's applauding the SEC for going after crypto like that. I'm not so sure exactly where he fetches from that this would inevitably be good for Bitcoin or something like that. David Schwartz said, just as government suppressing Bitcoin might be good for incumbent banks and non-banks, it's selfish and despicable, but you can't deny its effectiveness. I suppose his defense will be that he really and truly believes that Bitcoin is good for people, so it's okay for him to advocate forcing his judgment on others. But of course, Bitcoin's critics will say the same thing. They may even believe it. It's called cynical paternalism or paternalism. And John Deaton said, what is inconsistent is that so many Bitcoin maxis fancy themselves libertarians and then applaud or celebrate the massive and gross overreach by the SEC, which indeed is the funniest part. Now, guys, I am not against Bitcoin at all. I hold a good chunk of Bitcoin, but for the most part, I think people that are buying XRP right now will make way more money than the people buying Bitcoin. Having said that, even as a Bitcoin maximalist, you have to understand that the SEC going after crypto, people find it justified. They keep saying, well, but XRP is a shitcoin, so the SEC should take it down. Why do you want the SEC, who does not have power over crypto at all, to go after crypto? Okay, they said, or basically are leaving Bitcoin alone. That doesn't mean they won't eventually try to come after you anyway, because, well, where does their overreach stop? Where does their power end, if not at the beginning, basically, right? It has to end somewhere, and I don't think that Bitcoin is completely safe. So I think they're seeing it from the perspective of, well, every other coin except for Bitcoin is a security, so take them out. But then the question becomes yet again, what exactly makes a coin a security? And of course, they can't answer that because nobody can really do that. Max Keiser said, of course, the SEC is overreaching, but that won't stop them from killing off XRP and every other shitcoin except Bitcoin, of course. It's untouchable. Well, because there's virtually no rule of law whatsoever in Wall Street or finance for those with money and clout. Brad Garlinghouse has been spending a lot to keep his Ponzi scheme going, but he can't outspend the Feds and Jamie Dimon. He's it looks like he's kind of referring to Ethereum here, but I think Jamie Dimon meant in a different way. It's just a matter of when, not if XRP gets cut down. And John Deaton came in to say, Max, the SEC can't kill XRP. I'm not sure you're aware that in 2013 or 2015, some people at the SEC were calling Bitcoin a security, which is insane. Here's a video of Joe Grundfest in 2015 discussing it. Now, don't get me wrong, the SEC can and has caused damage, i.e. dry up liquidity, and can scare some to delist. But a transient regulator like Gensler will be gone in 2 years. Software code is not a security. Even if the judge decides Ripple violated Section 5 at some point, that doesn't make XRP a security. So even if Ripple sold XRP as a security, that does not make the underlying asset XRP a security. An investment contract, right? I'm sure you've seen now how ETH was favored because of regulatory capture by a group of investors. That's your SEC at work. A level playing field with the best technologies winning is the America I want to live in. And of course, not sure what he had to say about that. Probably can't say much about it. He did respond, and we're going to take a look at that because he's responded just now today, I think about 3 or so hours ago. But I think it's also funny if you start thinking about it. So the SEC, for example, has taken power over everything, and they've said, well, Bitcoin spot ETFs, no, for the most part, right? Now, a futures, a leveraged ETF, basically, so a double, I think it's 2 times leverage ETF for Bitcoin has now been allowed, which is kind of peculiar, right? Doesn't that also hurt Bitcoin then in that department? I mean, if the SEC can just say anything without actual proper law, isn't that really also bad? So I'm not so sure why he's not really against it. Anyway, first, as I predicted, the Hinman letter would be a big dud. It's meaningless. All right, any chatter 2013 to 2015 about Bitcoin from the SEC is meaningless. It's beyond their reach. Gensler has said this, and he's right. Well, Gensler has also said that 75% of the cryptos are not securities, and later on he said that 99% of them are. So the SEC will go after both ETH and XRP as unregistered securities. Well, again, ETH was favored, which again, messes up his story. The SEC works for the bank cartel. Okay, I can agree with that. And they run a protection racket for the banks. They'll cite national security and the Patriot Act if needed, but no way will ETH and XRP make it. Damn. You point out about liquidity, it's spot on and is effectively killing these projects. Code is not a security is a dead end argument, in my opinion, and deserves a separate threat. But what is problematic is that it can be shown, in my opinion, that Ripple/XRP knowingly created a fraud seeking to circumnavigate regulations, which is crazy to say. Now, at the same time, another thing that's happening that I think is quite interesting is the guys at Empower US that are trying to ask the SEC to go sit down and make some rules, right? They've been trying that for such a long while, but apparently it's just not working because the system is lodged in against them. And one of the things he's trying to say is basically these guys that are being called up should actually come over and can't just say, nah, don't feel like coming, or receive some very hefty fines. And then they try to say, well, you can't just fine, and he then tries to explain why Congress can impose fines for contempt. And then John said, this is what I fail to understand. Why hasn't Congress used its subpoena and contempt power in instances where it is warranted, like here with the SEC? I understand if certain people believe it shouldn't be used or overused, but my God, we have gotten to a point where people flat out ignore Congress because, well, we saw everything with Gary Gensler, right? Gary has effectively refused to provide clarity, document emails, and correspondence between Sam Bankman-Fried, FTX, and the SEC. In the meantime, Maxine Waters, being the partisan hack she is, pretty much tells witnesses appearing before the FSC to ignore Republican questioning. Why hasn't the committee issued subpoenas? At this point, it is impossible to conduct effective congressional oversight without the use of subpoenas and the contempt power. At the same time, another discussion was ongoing. There's somebody who said, well, basically I bought XRP and later on found out about Ripple, right? But he bought it before. And that's actually a little bit of a longer rabbit hole of things. And I'll take you through it very quickly. Somebody basically said, hey, with JP Morgan losing so many documents, they only have to pay a very small amount of money. And James Rule said, just another bank payoff from JP Morgan to the SEC. He said the SEC doesn't get the money. But then he basically said at the bottom here, the legal issue is whether a reasonable investor would have an expectation of profit, talking about the Ripple case, talking about an industry where the people have spent millions of dollars on JPEGs of ugly monkeys. The SEC's argument is that Ripple represented to investors that the company would generate value and profits for XRP, and that's legally sufficient. We'll see what the court says. Now, David Schwartz had a good little response by explaining to him that really it doesn't make a lot of sense, his argument. And afterwards, a lawyer came in to say, it's surely not the test that merely making the representation is enough. Otherwise, that would be crazy. And Balaz said, I did not buy XRP in 2018 because I knew anything about Ripple. I bought it because it had the third largest market cap. Then again, the lawyer Bill Morgan came back to whatever they represented, it's not so relevant here. And Vincent Van Code also explained that he bought XRP because of the XRP ledger and because it was pretty cool. And later on, I found out about Ripple. Bill Morgan again stating, does the SEC have evidence from even a single actual holder of XRP that he or she bought XRP expecting a profit from Ripple's efforts? Because it's quite difficult, right? If Ripple does something, how are you supposed to make profit now? Because Ripple is a company, XRP is a currency, right? What I can say is that the moment you enter the XRP ecosystem, right, and you see Ripple building, I think, again, quite honestly, it's quite logical that one of the major builders is going to help increase utility and therefore potentially the price. However, it's not an expectation that Ripple is solely going to be doing that or that Ripple is promoting it that way, that they're going to be making XRP great, or, well, I guess it doesn't really matter at the end of the day because it's not theirs. It's not their stock or anything. If Ripple does something, they can literally have zero effect on XRP and they can do something that has effect on XRP. If you know what I mean? It's like, it's just not the same entity. So anyway, Jesse Hines said, Lo, I don't really get this argument. I bought XRP years and years ago before there was really much utility, and I had expectations that Ripple was building the utility, and through that, I expected XRP to go up. We're fooling ourselves if we think many people didn't feel the same way. And Kenny says, well, he explains he bought XRP to quickly get some money out of the UK to somebody there. And yes, he explains as well that there are some utilities for it. Jesse says, I'm now being bombarded with messages from people telling me how they bought XRP having done no research. I don't know whether to be surprised, confused, sad, or happy with this information, maybe all of it. Did 2 months research before I bought in. And I think the majority of people don't do research because it used to be one of the biggest cryptos. It used to be number 2. So people just buy it. Same thing, like they don't know what Bitcoin does. They just buy it because of buying it for fun, I'd say. So John says, I can tell you, after communicating with over 10,000 XRP holders, primarily via email, but also Zoom meetings at my office and phone calls, the majority of first-time buyers, over 52% of XRP, were unaware of the company called Ripple. And so in my opinion, even, this is my opinion, not legal advice, right? Even if Ripple was building cool things for XRP in the XP Ledger, me myself as well, did not buy XRP because of Ripple. But I don't think most people did buy because of Ripple, even if Ripple is saying some good things about it, right? And that's the key difference right there. The first point when I bought in as well, it wasn't even called XRP yet, it was still called Ripple. And honestly, I'm going to be completely open with you here. I didn't care about what the company Ripple would do with those things. I just thought, hey, that looked pretty juicy. It was very high up there and had been around for a little while. But I really can confirm here that the most people I've spoken to did not buy XRP because of Ripple, but that excitement, I guess, enthusiasm came a little bit later. So John Dean is basically backing up here just how many people actually bought XRP without knowing about Ripple or for the, I guess, proper intentions. And somebody says, so what about ones like myself that invested in XRP, aka Ripples, the ones that know it long enough, that absolutely knew about Ripple? One of the main reasons I invested a couple years ago is because of who sat on the board of directors and Joel Katz working for the NSA. And John says, yes, there are people like you as well. And if Ripple had direct contact with you and sold you XRP, that's a valid argument for the Howey test that was met because of that scenario. Because you gave money to Ripple for XRP. You entered into a common enterprise with Ripple through vertical commonality. And you were sitting back expecting profits on your XRP delivered by the talents and efforts of Joel Katz, the CTO, management team, board of directors, and Ripple, the company. Now, if you didn't buy directly from Ripple and had no contract with Ripple, acquiring XRP in the secondary market, it's a different situation. If you acquired XRP for non-investment purposes like transferring money on the ledger or utilizing the DEX, etc., it's a different scenario. But even if Ripple sold you an investment contract utilizing XRP as the underlying asset, it still, as of this point, doesn't make XRP itself a security, and it certainly doesn't turn my XRP or my daughter's XRP into one. Anyway, that's what's keeping me thinking for the last little while here. I'm honestly quite convinced XRP is one of the best cryptos out there, and you can actually extrapolate this beyond, or I'd say expand this beyond Ripple, because what Ripple does is a good part. I'm going to be honest with you, it's a juicy part. But the people have been building, the use case without Ripple completely is there. And I still personally believe that the price, just because of this lawsuit, this is what the SEC has done, is going to be going astronomical. There is obviously still a chance they can lose. It's there, but the probability, because of Coinbase, Binance, BlackRock, all giving their middle finger to the SEC. I think right now the SEC is having a harder and harder time defending all these different fronts. They already let go of a new ETF, right? The leveraged Bitcoin ETF, but still they let it out. And from that perspective, I'm thinking, well, that's now out the way. The next thing that's going to be coming up is the Bitcoin spot ETF, and Binance and Coinbase are heavily fighting against the SEC. There's also Empower US trying to get more information out there. William Himmon's documents just came out, which again prove all the Ethereum connections. People have found out about Bill Himmon's son with Prometheum and everything. People have found out about Vitalik's connections and about the banking connections. It's all starting to slide together. Another crazy thing is the very minimal fine against JP Morgan, $4 million for so ridiculously many documents. And I could go on about it, but it's starting to get on the radar of many high-up individuals. And so soon enough, I personally believe that at least one of these people will have to be properly questioned. Again, one thing that is also coming up is the Financial Committee is coming up with some new rules, some new book next month. Probably XRP will be discussed. Probably we will be going over, again, another plan to get Gary Gensler to resign or get him fired, get him out of the system, because you can see just how trending it goes over on Twitter. And I know that's not a good indicator to showcase how righteous something is, but it's a good indicator that if the majority of the people on the internet, all right, are not happy with the way you're doing something, and I'm talking a vast majority, you're probably doing something wrong. I'm not saying, hey, it's 50-50. A lot of people don't like you. A lot of people do like you, as if with a lot of other politicians. I'm talking, there's almost really nobody that thinks you're doing a good job. You're just against the people who you're literally sworn in to protect. Yeah, it's a big thing. But yeah, tonight, very important night. As you all know, Bitcoin's closed. We're going to be talking about that in another video coming up shortly. I'll tell you guys again, if you did not do it yet, make sure you put that notification bell on. And if you want to, press the like button, but that's up to you. See you guys again in another crypto video. And again, guys, XRP to the freaking moon. Comment it down below.